Guys, welcome to NewWayStories podcast. My name is Jesse Roberts. I am your host. With me, as always, co-host, and may I emphasize Darius Giles, and our producer, Ben. We are a comedy podcast that talks about creativity that hopefully makes the world a better place. And like always, we always devolve into movies and comic books. But today we have a very special guest. His name is Nick Casbarro, and he is the author of Nick. You corrected how to say it. Now I'm panicking. Tell us your book title so I don't mess it up.
It's called Valerian Descent into the Void. Is the name of the book.
Valerian Descent into the Void. Sick. Well, hey Nick, thank you so much for joining us today. We get to talk about your book, get to talk about your process, and about you. So you mentioned you have a background in physical therapy, and you're here as a first-time author, but you said that it's not a linear journey by any means. So how'd you end up here on the NewWayStories podcast, just crushing it?
That's a good question. I
think my publicist was drunk.
No, I was always an athlete growing up, and I guess I had a little bit of a creative streak. Like when I was in middle school, I actually won a scholarship to take summer classes at RISD, which is Rhode Island School of Design. It's one of the bigger art schools in the country. And I kind of tabled it for a while when I got to high school because, there's lots of girls to chase, and
Sure.
kind of busy with, everything else I was doing. I was a pole vaulter in high school, and I ended up even pole vaulting in college after that. And so all of the creative aspects of my life kind of basically just got put on the back burner for a while. And I thought physical therapy would be a cool profession. I'd been through physical therapy myself for sports-related injuries and things like that. And I got to college. I went to Northeastern, and I'm just realizing the more I'm going through the courses that are related to PT, I'm like, this is cool, but I don't know if I want to be just massaging old people for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And that's all PTs do. I've got a good respect for that.
If someone had told me that, I would have said, yes, sign me up.
Hey, it's never too late.
I've been called a misogynist, and I believe that means someone who likes to massage old people.
Yes, for sure.
I'm not sure the context people use it. They keep calling me a misogynist. I'm like, I don't really massage old people.
I don't massage old people that much, but sometimes.
When you have to, right?
Yeah.
When I have.
So
Tom was right.
Yeah. So I basically decided in year 5 out of 6, because you have to get a doctorate now in PT to practice as a physical therapist. I was like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah, that's a lot of school.
So I went to my, I kind of had a come to Jesus moment, so to speak, but I went to my, my advisor or my guidance counselor, whatever you call it. And I was like, hey, I think I want to, what if I just decided to graduate, what would I have to do that? And she was like, you had enough credits to graduate last year. Like you just do it. So I guess I'm done with college. So
it's Michael Scott. You have to declare bankruptcy. You walk out of your dorm and you I am using my credits to graduate.
Yeah, exactly. So, so I graduated, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I kind of fell into sales, and I had a medical background. So medical devices was where I kind of hung my hat for a while. And I worked in medical device. I still work in medical devices to this day. I have my own medical distributorship now. But I did that for 10, 11 years. And during COVID, we're all at home and we're all bored. I just started doing I kind of reignited the learning bug a little bit. And I just started getting into all sorts of crazy things. I mean, COVID was a crazy time, and, all the conspiracy theories were popping.
Sourdough.
Yeah. Some of which turned out to be true. funny enough. And
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
so I don't sit still well. I'm always looking for side projects and different things to do. So I basically I got on a plane one day because we were kind of back to traveling. I was at a new role where I was basically flying like 3 to 5 days out of the week. So I was on a plane all the time. And I got to a point where I basically beat Netflix. Now I'm downloading episodes to shows I don't even want to watch.
Yeah.
So this is a waste of time. And so I had, the only college level class I ever even took in high school was a creative writing course. And I had a couple of ideas. A lot of them were, it was a kind of an amalgamation of ideas from my childhood, from, when I'd be daydreaming and drawing my own comics in high school, and just some of the things that were going on. And I just said, well, let's give this a go. Let's see what happens. So I got on the plane. It was a long flight, one from Miami to Hawaii. And I got off the plane and I was on chapter 4.
Can we just, how long is that flight? That feels like a long time.
That is a long time.
It's well, there's a layover. So you go from Miami to Texas and then from Texas to Maui. And
Holy smokes.
It's at like 7-8 hours of
from Texas to. Okay, gotcha.
It's probably 5 hours from Texas to Miami, but it's gotta be 7 hours from Texas to Maui.
I was gonna say we're in Washington State, so I think we're always a little spoiled on like our flights to Hawaii.
Yes.
Yeah, maybe it was long. It's. I mean, this was.
It's a long time.
I'm not trying to. It was your flight, not mine. I'm just saying that's a long flight.
It's a long flight. Anyway, sorry. You're on chapter 4. I got distracted.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, like this, it literally poured out of me. I was like,
that's cool.
Really enjoy doing this. So then I started taking it a little bit more seriously. I started storyboarding the whole thing. Well, where am I going to take this? And every question that I answered brought up 5 more questions.
Yeah.
And so, I started this Excel document, and it started as just what are the themes I want to explore? And, I based a lot of those I've always been a fan of like philosophy and things like that and dystopian sci-fi. So I wanted to incorporate those elements. I wanted to incorporate some like transposed current events kind of thing, like you just push them out into the future. It is a far future story. It's supposed to take place in like 700 years from now, give or take.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
Cool.
Like I said, it just grew and grew and grew to the point where I was like, well, who are the characters? Let's make their backstories. What are the planets like? How many moons do they have? It basically follows humanity. Vitellarium follows humanity after we become multi-planetary. So how many planets are there? What are the people like there? What are the government structures? What's the overall sentiment between planets? All this stuff. And suddenly I found myself like, a couple months later, writing out the tenets to a new religion. Like, what does religion look like 700 years in the future? I just mapped out everything. And then I kept writing. And so the plane basically became my writing office because I'm still working. I'm still traveling constantly.
Yeah.
This whole story was basically written at 36,000 feet.
That's cool.
I like it.
That's going to be the name of your biography when they write it. One of these days when we see your biography at Barnes & Noble, it's going to say, it's going to have you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Written at 36,000 feet.
Carrying a typewriter onto the plane.
Through TSA.
You're checking a typewriter. Amazing. That's legit. Similarly, like the first book that I put out, Space Pioneer, definitely not nearly as in depth of world building, but I was like helping this pizza place / coffee shop open, and so I was running the coffee counter, and it was crazy slow. I had like, in a 4-hour shift, I would have like 5 or 6 people, and so I was just like, I'm gonna write my book while I'm here. Like I don't really have to clean anything because I'm the first person in. Like I'm just gonna, Yeah, so I was able
And
to
there's no
like
customers making a mess.
right, exactly. So I was like, I got paid an hourly wage to write my book for this first go around.
And that's why Jesse's biography is going to be called "A Pizza My Mind."
That was
Why everything I do is worth minimum wage. It's gonna be good. I feel like a lot of first time authors are like the first time you get that, because it's tough to do a full time job, and then if you have a family or a wife or whatever, like it is tough to then set aside 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day, like unless you have kind of that time built in somewhere. It's really hard to set that schedule, especially in the beginning. And so I think having like this time where you go, I have to be here for 5 hours, 6 hours on a plane. Like, what am I going to do to fill my time? I'm going to write a book. I'm going to do something productive. And I think that's also one of the things that I really enjoy, or one of the things I want to push out about this podcast is you're saying like, man, you went through Netflix, you got to shows that you like weren't even interested in.
Love Island seasons 1 through 3 were worth it, but the 4th season,
I mean, it falls off. It falls off hard. And
the
sure,
plot gets so thin.
UK and Australia good, but US it's not. No, God, I hate all
Love Island equally.
All Love Island equally. All reality shows really, but. Creativity.
Well, you ever watched Love on the Spectrum? Obviously,
yeah.
There is one reality show that sits atop the heap.
Listen, people keep telling me that I need to watch it. Sometimes I get a little offended at how often people are like, "You would really like this," but then there's another part of me that's like,
"I would really love this. I think I would really love this."
I don't know. But doing something creative, like whether the book goes, you become the next Stephen King or whatever, like it doesn't necessarily matter. Like you have now like made something, you created something that is worthwhile, rather than when someone's like, "What did you do this last year?" You're like, "Well, I binged all of Love Island." You're like, "Oh, I wrote a book." That's yeah.
Oh, that's cute, Jerry. I wrote a book.
You go, one book is equivalent to 13 seasons of Love Island.
No, that is really cool.
You know what? To be able to put something out there, it feels good. Like just to finish it. Like I remember when I finished the final, because it ends with the epilogue.
Yeah,
and
naturally.
When I finished that, I was like, holy crap. Like just the energy burst that you get from that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It's unreal. So
that's cool.
I would recommend it to anyone who's got any kind of good idea that they want to get out there. Put it on paper, man. It's time consuming. But the entire journey for me was incredibly enjoyable. It's like, other than my family, I've got a wife. She's a surgeon. She definitely helped in terms of input when it came to anything medical that popped up in the book, along with my own background, but she's the boss when it comes to that. And my daughter, I've got a 2-year-old. Other than
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. Other than them, and just, trying to, pay bills and things like that. This is all I think about.
Yeah.
Because I'm not done with this by any means. I'm approved for 7 books with my publisher, and that might be 8.
That's awesome,
sick.
dude.
So, yeah. Okay.
Congratulations, man.
Well,
Thanks.
let's get. I want to table that. I want to kind of go into the publishing process for. I think a few people who listen are interested in like that side of things, and then also as myself, I'm just like an indie guy, but interested too in other forms of publishing. But before we get into that, give us the synopsis. I know you already kind of laid out that it's a far future sci-fi. But
who's
give
the main
us
character?
Yeah.
What's the main plot?
Give us that 30,000 foot level.
What's the spoilers
37.
at the very end?
So
What happened in that epilogue, by the way?
Oh, you can't tell you that. That's
No.
It's all completely like just thinly veiled autobiographical.
We have, guys, I've talked about this before. My wife, and I love her dearly. She's carrying my child right now. She will flip to the end. Like when Harry Potter 6 came out, spoiler alert, she like flipped to the end to see who the major character who died was. And I was like, what? You robbed yourself so much. But she's like, no, like I don't want to live in that suspense. I just want to know. And then I can go back and enjoy the book without like that. And I'm like, that
So bizarre.
is insane to me.
I don't want Kate to know this. I just want all of the listeners.
Don't worry, she won't
three
listen.
of you to know this. That's demonic. And,
Yeah.
we're going to pray that out of her.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm believing
listen,
in Jesus' name.
come on, preach. Listen, there's reasons people out there need the gospel, and hers is that one. So anyway, yes, I don't
Nick,
condone or support spoilers by any means.
We are Christian dudes. The religious jokes are just jokes. You don't have whatever God you worship. We're totally fine with that. We'll pray for you after the podcast.
I was gonna say, whichever God you worship, we know that she goes to hell. It doesn't matter.
When we make the religious jokes, it's they are purely satirical.
no word there. But as far as the overarching story itself for the Vitellarium series, you're basically following the emergence of a future mythological hero. So it is a kind of a good mix between sci-fi and space opera. You do get a chance to really get into the characters that you're following. I like to say it's kind of like Game of Thrones in space, because it is multi-narrative. You do end up following a number of characters throughout the entire, basically the world that I've built to give you a full, scope of the world building, because that was something that I was, heavily invested in, continuing to expand throughout the writing of this. But the story itself follows humanity after we become multiplanetary, and it's all thanks to the discovery of a new element, which they call Vitellarium, which is not native to Earth. And that element essentially allows for the golden age of space exploration to begin.
Cool.
And then as it becomes more and more prevalent, we colonize new planets, we learn how to terraform. And then six planets end up being colonized. And then the seventh planet ends up being discovered, which is basically the source locally of Vitellarium. And a huge war erupts over by all of the colonized planets. And unfortunately, what ends up happening is the police force that all of the planets had created together to basically kind of just modulate and rein in, at all of this space exploration was allowed to become too powerful. And so they win the war. They kind of fracture off and create their own government. And they deploy a puppet planet. They deploy a puppet government on the planet, which they run, and they kind of rule the galaxy, the known galaxy, with an iron fist.
Yeah.
In the story itself, you're following a roughneck freelancer, kind of a mercenary type, named Roman Matthews. That is the protagonist. Although, like I said before, there's a lot of other characters you follow. Yeah. Anyway, he's basically doing odd jobs for local gangs when you first meet him. He's kind of a lost soul, kind of a drunk. He's basically spending all his money on booze and whores when you first meet him. He
was going to go get a degree in physical therapy. He was like, well, I'm not going to do that. He was selling medical equipment, and then we find him here. I see.
Let's hope I'm not writing my future.
You've got a wife and a 2-year-old. I'm not speaking that over your life. Sorry.
So, no, it's all right. Let's like I said, let's hope my future is a bit brighter than his. Yeah. But
I'm sure it will be.
But yeah, so basically, in doing this, the work that he does for these kind of underground organizations on planet Dioram. That's where the story takes place. He becomes embroiled in a massive conspiracy that has the authoritarian government of his planet hunting him. And so band together with kind of a motley crew to be able to survive the ordeal. And that's just book one. But you follow politicians in this book. In the government, you get a feel for the political turmoil that's actually brewing in the background that leads to a lot of the conflict. You follow a scientist. He's a physicist for that government. You follow an intergalactic pop star as she's touring from planet to planet.
That's
kind of cool.
And she's got her own posse, and she's got a finger in kind of everything. It's really that's an interesting.
That's funny.
Her name is Sailor Twift.
What is it?
So her name is Sailor Twift.
Yeah.
More bad wordplay for you.
Yeah.
Next time you need character names, you know who to come to. He keeps pitching it to everybody. The historical fiction author, it got out of hand pretty quickly.
What if there was someone in the concentration camp named Sailor Twift? And she's like, yeah, I don't think that would really be appropriate.
No, she writes like fun pop songs. That is ridiculous. Would you say like I was trying to think of a quick comp for kind of a mainstream book. Would you say like The Expanse? I mean, I know you said kind of Game of Thrones, but in space, which actually those guys were interns to R.R. Martin. But the Expanse series, does that kind of follow a detective, politics, space?
Yes, that's it. I love The Expanse. That was one of my favorites, and I was super happy when Amazon kind of brought that back to life and picked that up after, because that's a sci-fi show.
Yeah.
Originally. Yeah,
I was a little surprised that it honestly got like canceled from Sci-Fi, but yeah,
I know, because it was so good. It was a high production for that outlet and everything else. No, I was
happened at the wrong time, like as cable was dying.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Another good sci-fi one. I don't know if you guys know this one. Is did you guys ever see Firefly?
Oh yeah.
Have I seen an episode of Goram Firefly? You bet your butt I have.
Yes. Correct.
Nice.
Yeah. So, that was, I loved that kind of take on the future where, some of the outer planets are not going to have the same kind of technology because they haven't been allowed the same time to, and that element, I think I took a little bit into my own writing as well.
For sure.
On probably a smaller aspect, I guess.
Well, it makes sense just in development, right? Even if you look at like America, right, and then kind of do a whole macro idea of it. In the beginning, you've got the East Coast, which is developed, and then you get to St. Louis, which was like the gateway to the West, right? And it's still rough, but still forms of society. And then once you get to the West Coast, you're like, it's the Wild Wild West out here, right? There's no law. There's no because they haven't had time to form any of that. And even now, I think, obviously we're equally as developed as a society, but I think you see it in philosophy. I think someone who is born and raised West Coast has a different philosophy than someone who is born and raised
very different people.
Boston, or East Coast, or whatever.
Nuance for sure.
Yeah,
definitely there. Like we hate rules. Like to a fault, most people, West Coast people, hate rules and establishments and institutions.
Right.
Go to the East Coast and people will be like, "Hey, this is the coolest institution we have," and we're like, we don't really want to see that.
Right. Yeah.
What's new? What's fresh?
What new fresh wine? The way you said it just reminded me of the jerk. But anyway, but then you can expand that. It's just like, okay, if we, open up a new planet. That's not how you would say it, but if you start a new society on a planet, it would be less developed than the one that has been there forever.
100%. And think of the politics that would be involved, and actually slow things down. And I mean, it's
well, in your book, you've got this shadow government that's also empirically controlling everything. So it's intentionally kind of slowing some things down, speeding some things up, and when it suits them, keeping certain planets in the dark on things for whatever reason, which makes that intrigue is so cool. That's a great world you created, dude.
Yeah, thank you. I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
I'm legit gonna read it. I'm excited to read it.
I also saw on your website you have comics.
Like the I'm sorry, what?
Oh, I was stalking your website while you were talking. You also have comics, a comic version of your book.
Whoa.
A comic, but did I not send you guys the comic? I'm sorry.
No. Dude,
I'll do it as soon as we.
That's fun, dude.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so awesome.
I recently I've really jumped off the deep end. I was just texting Ben about it last night. Like, I've casually collected comic books since I was like 10. And then in the past few weeks, I like went through the process of cataloging them all on a website, and then it like lets me know what issues I'm missing and how many books I have. And I ended with like 587 or 591, something like that. I was like, I'm so close to 600. I might as well just go get 600. And then in the past like 15 days, I'm like now at 630. It's becoming a problem. So I would love to read your comic book, is what I'm trying to say. If you could support that habit, that'd be great.
100%. I got you. So yeah, the comic is, I'm super proud of it. The artist that I found, there's two of them. So I have an illustrator and a colorist.
Sure.
The illustrator's name is Francisco Nilo. He's out of Argentina. Phenomenal talent. He, like when I tell you, I write out the scripts, and that's been an interesting process because I feel like it's preparing me for eventually down the line, bringing this to life on screen.
Yeah, dude.
Because I have to describe where I want the camera looking, what, for at what level, what the color palette.
Full on storyboard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Frame by frame, nonetheless.
And it's fun. I enjoy that. So that's been phenomenal practice for me. And I give him what, I hadn't written a comic script before. So I gave him the first one, and he, it's a very collaborative process. And, he comes back with his suggestions, and it's like he pulls it out of my head. It's really
cool.
True to what I'm trying to bring to life in the book. And then the colorist's name is Chandran Panusamy. He's out of India. Also incredibly talented. He really, just the color that you get, the color schemes that you get with this are, it's very cyberpunk. It's very dark.
Great.
Gritty.
I'm looking at it right now. It looks awesome. We'll link it.
That's sick.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's and you get a feel for, like I said, what I'm trying to, I guess, elaborate in words through the comic as well. It was my first step towards, entering other outlets of media, because I wanted a pictorial version of what was supposed to be occurring in the book, so I could, give people an even greater detailed version of Vitalaria.
It is interesting, the two different mindsets that you have to get into for like novel compared to comic book, right? Like novel, you're describing stuff, you have a full paragraph, but then and you're almost oftentimes in a scene walking people like literally step by step. But then in a comic, like you have to be very strategic with what you're doing in each frame, and like what words we are saying, what words we're not saying, and how you want people to connect the dots in between each panel, right? You can't walk someone step by step in the comic, or it just doesn't work. And so it's interesting that you have like just the different headspace that you have to get into for novel compared to a comic, and then eventually for a script as well. Like what you're taking I'm assuming your book is probably like 90 or 100,000 words, and taking it down to I think a screenplay is, what do they say? It's like 15,000 words.
That's going to be tough. That I acknowledge is going to be very hard. That's why I almost think that this would almost have to be a series if it were ever brought to the screen, like a streaming something like that, because the book is 180,000 words. It's
180. Dang.
It's not by any means, but it does read fast. It's like I said, I tried to find a good mix between hard sci-fi elements where I actually try and explain the technology, like
Yeah.
explain the history of how we got here. Really appease to some of like the real hard sci-fi guys. But then I also made the book very character focused. So you learn a lot world through conversations between the characters, which I think makes it really just appealing to a much broader audience. So I did a little bit of
pages of exposition with no character interaction can be dense.
That could be a little dry.
So when the characters are interacting,
Yeah.
I hear that's, you hear people say that all the time. They're like, well, I really love this world, but I don't have like the wherewithal to get through all of this exposition. So that's really smart. Like having the characters like that. And that's how, like, for those of us who grew up really loving film, that's how that works in film.
Yeah.
As you listen to the dialogue, you see the characters and you see how it affects them. And that's what builds the world in your imagination.
The exposition is disguised.
Yeah.
So I totally agree. And then you'll get a pretty fair amount of dialogue between the characters as well. I've always liked, I mean, if I know we were talking before, like what the kind of
good comparison,
what this relates to, or like I've always enjoyed like the meaningful discussions between characters that directors like Quentin Tarantino has in his movies. I find those to be super interesting.
Yeah.
You'll see certain elements of that in some of my writing as well, where there is a lot of dialogue where you're getting to really know these characters based on the way that they talk. You get a feel for kind of their thoughts on things, their kind of philosophical perspectives. I loved since I was in high school, I've always loved philosophy as I guess just I don't know. I guess just a topic. It's intellectually stimulating, even though half the time you're just doing mental gymnastics. I mean, it's important.
It's a good lens for history as well, because if you follow it from, the beginning of philosophical writings, you can follow key philosophers all the way from, Gilgamesh, the story of Gilgamesh, to early Greek and late Greek, and then Marcus Aurelius, and then obviously a lot of Chinese stuff and Shinto stuff, and then Christian stuff that takes us through the last 2,000 years. So it's a great way to look through history as well. It's just really interesting stuff.
Yeah. So I just reread Sun Tzu's Art of War last year. I'm currently rereading Marcus Aurelius Meditations right now. And I feel the funny thing is, as those outlooks expand, so does civilization around it. And so I feel like sci-fi for me is, especially dystopian sci-fi, is a good way to look at basically all the ways we could potentially fuck it up as we
dude.
And you could everyone says progress, but we could easily progress into a burning building as greener pastures. And so it's kind of a look at what it could become. And it also allows, I think, an outlet for ways in which we can get ourselves out of it, which is certainly something I plan to explore in Valeria.
Yeah.
Because like I said, you're basically following a character and a number of people in this heavily authoritarian government. And it's not pretty.
Yeah.
It's a dark future.
I do sci-fi. I do really love any sort of like speculative fiction is such an awesome area to explore those themes, and I think you can do it with I've talked about it before, but Rod Serling from The Twilight Zone, he had this TV show and he was trying to push political ideals and stuff, and the people at the time were like, no, you can't, you can't do this stuff, this doesn't work. And then he made The Twilight Zone, and he's literally talking about the same themes and the same ideas that he wanted to talk about, but now you're interacting with humans and aliens, or an alien comes to Earth to serve man, right? And then it's all these like kind of crazy storylines, and it's what he wanted to talk about in the beginning, but he was allowed to in sci-fi and in horror because people are more receptive to it, or like less defensive when you say, "Oh, look at this wild idea amongst this crazy world that I built." And then, but if you pull the themes out, you're like, "Well, this is happening currently." That's but people can ingest it and think about it in speculative form rather than a straight story that's happening in our time right now.
Well, it is so cool. Narrative itself is literally the way that human beings, it is our primary communication about what is valuable and what we believe. That's what narrative is. So you can't use a metaphor with your dog. You can't be like, "Hey, this ball is like a treat."
That's a simile.
Idiot.
Well,
we're not all authors. That's really funny. That's extremely funny. You can use onomatopoeias. Anyway, but yeah,
boom.
You go boom.
Oh my gosh.
But yes, we're the only beings that can use narrative.
Yeah.
Sorry, I keep cutting you off, Nick.
No, I like it.
No, it's okay. I'm trying to chime in so I could vehemently agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, why do you think the I know you guys are nice.
Yeah. No, you're good.
But I was raised Catholic. I'm not particularly religious.
Heard
of it?
But
yes, no, you're 100% right, Nick.
It's written, the Bible's written in parables. Because why? Because if it's just a set of rules, it's not. A parable allows you to basically ingest the meaning of the rule, but also see why, because it's played out, right? So I think it's meaningful. Storytelling is something that, in sales, even like I'm in sales, and there's actually been books written about how the storytelling method actually accesses different parts of your brain, and basically gets to the person's decision-making centers just by telling stories that include whatever you're trying to say in that story. Yeah. It's weird. The human brain learns differently. It's super.
Well, it's interesting because like the Enlightenment era of like human thought, like you talk about like history and like what we did right and what we did wrong, and dystopian, like what could we do right and what could we do wrong. It's like the next answer usually is not actually the ultimate answer. And so they have like the Enlightenment era, and they're like, well, it's just really all about objectivity and facts. And we do this for a couple hundred years, and then people are like, this really doesn't provide any meaning to our lives, because human beings, unfortunately, like I am like, sure, facts over feelings, sure. But unfortunately, people aren't driven by facts. They are indeed driven by feelings. That is the main driving force. And so we have to cognitively choose to do things that are counterintuitive. But like with the sales thing, that's because when you tell a story and it engages somebody's emotive brain in some way, it is what drives. Like when somebody has a kid, they're not like, I factually believe that because this person contains my DNA, now I will cognitively make the decision to care for them. That's not what happens.
Yeah.
Someone's like, holy crap, there's something that just like unlocked in my psyche. And for most people who are not like very, very broken, for the majority of people, it's like, wow, this changed me fundamentally, chemically, and now I have to love this thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what drives us.
That is very real.
I imagine. I don't have any kids, but I imagine it is.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's like, if you look at laws and constitutions and whatever, like those are all things that last like maybe a couple hundred years, right? But like these religious texts last thousands. They last through.
Yeah. They
last through like civilization and humanity, and yeah, and like that's why France is on its like 6th constitution. Not to like shots fired at France, but
no, I'm not gonna shoot France.
That's really funny.
But
Hey,
yeah,
for you, since this is a comedy podcast, what do France and a city bus tire have in common? 5,000 revolutions a second.
nice. We're very pro anti-French on this podcast.
Yeah.
Oui, the French are so dumb.
All right, so I just want to kind of get into the
For all of
nuts
our
and bolts.
French listeners, we're very pro. We're very pro French. If we had mostly French listeners, we'd be completely pro. We are. I'll say we have no moral base at all.
Well, I was going to say
whatever the people tell us they want.
We're very pro sellout.
Yeah.
As though we've talked about all of these religious things, we have no real constitution ourselves.
No.
So
we're the Nickelback of podcasts. Just tell us what you want us to be. We'll mass produce it. It'll be awesome.
Except for us to go away. We won't do that. We won't do that.
We're staying.
Okay. So you said you have like a potential like 7-book deal. What was the process of getting published? What did you do to go through that? Give us kind of the quick rundown on that.
Yeah. So I basically finished the book and I was like, what now?
Yeah, sure.
All right, well, I'll start looking for publishers, and I had a family friend. It was one of my wife's cousins who, kind of was in that creative writing world. And she says, well, I've got a friend who works for this publisher. Like, I can introduce you. If they like what you got, then, great. And if not, then you got more work
They'll
to
kill you.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, I thought maybe it was going to be like super high stakes.
Oh, no. I had looking around and I wasn't really sure how to even go through the submission process. And once I just, my whole thing is I've been lucky in that someone taught me like, hey, listen, if you're getting into something new, or even if you're just trying to improve at anything, you got to find mentors, right?
Yeah.
And so I reach out to people who I know and or don't know. Yeah. And I straight up ask them, hey, I'm looking to do this. What did you do? What do I do? How do can you help? And usually people are pretty, if you come kind of hat in hand and you're like, hey, listen, I don't know.
Yeah.
I would like to. Usually they're pretty willing to share that information. So for anyone who's out there who's like, I don't know anything about that, I could never do it. Yeah, you could. I'm learning this as I go. I didn't know anything. I mean, I had only really just dabbled in comics, in my younger years. I never really got into it as much as I am now. Yeah. Because of now. So now I'm finding like this is like a whole golden age of, just learning new things. And so it's which makes it exciting. Fun.
Yeah.
Scary.
I just want to like really quickly double down on what you said, because I personally have this as one of my flaws, is I'll be like, well, screw it. Like, I don't have any connections. Like, I don't have any connections with anybody or anything or any, like, no one's, I've got no inroads. So I'm just going to give up. And I think what you said is really good. You had your cousin and that's great, but also just that principle, like, if you don't have a connection, try to make one. Yeah. Like, reach out and maybe it will be hard and maybe you'll get the door shut in your face. That's always possible. But we do live in a world where you can reach out to people and humbly say, I'd really like to learn about this. I know you've never heard me. You don't know any of my family. I don't know any of your family, but do you think there's a chance that I could give you $100 for a couple hours of your time? And you might actually end up finding an open door that you don't have from some kind of born privilege. And I think that's an important thing. Like,
well, in today's world too, with like, the internet, even 25 years ago, even in like the turn of the century, it was not nearly as accessible. And you're like, I want to write a book and I want to do a comic book like version of it. And like for us in Yakima, Washington, or like in Washington State, it's like if you don't have those immediate connections, or like you have to like go to a convention and hopefully meet somebody, hopefully figure out like a comic book artist or whatever, but like online, like you can reach out, you can accomplish all of these things and be connected, even on my first book and then on Rat Race, the second one as well. Like I was meeting with my editor, who I was connected to from Darius's little brother, told me about him, and then we met like for hours, like weekly over Zoom. And this has now been like 5 years that I've been doing this, and I've never met him in person. He lives like 3 hours away from me, and I've never met him in person. We're just always on Zoom. But that's the world that we live in. You can connect and grow and be better by connecting with those people, and it doesn't necessarily have to be someone in your immediate like vicinity.
Yeah, 100%. And I think what I've realized is, along with, just kind of diving in head first, at first when I started writing, I was like, well, this is cathartic. Like, who cares if it turns into anything? I'm just doing it because I'm having fun doing it.
For sure.
The more I got into it, the more like the inner perfectionist came out, because I was like, this is mine. Like I'm building, like I was more interested in making sure like all, the loose ends were tied up, and, that it flowed better. And, I got a good idea while I was just taking a shower. Let me run out and type it into my phone before I forget it.
Right.
And yeah, it builds, it compounds. And it got to a point where I was like, this is the only thing that I care about. I got to put this out there. Like you when you're really enjoying it, and when it's yours, and when you're writing about something that you're interested in writing about, it just, you'll find no shortage of motivation to basically get it done.
Yeah.
And that's at least what I've noticed about myself, about my own kind of journey through this, is the more I put into it, the more I'm invested in it. And it just, I don't think anything's kind of flowed quite as naturally as this.
Yeah, that's sick. Now, I'm noticing that you have a T-shirt.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. Is that like your own branding? Is your publisher like, hey man, let's make T-shirts?
Oh no, that's all me.
So
holy smokes!
Sick.
Did you do the website?
Oh yeah, it's on the website.
No, I said, did you do the website?
Yeah. So originally the publisher did the website, and then I ended up hiring someone I had a friend of mine was in the tech space, and he took a look at it, and he was like, you could clean it up, buddy. And I was like, all right, fine. So I found another guy, and I've basically been self-funding everything outside of, basically everything.
The self-branding and stuff is something that I need to be better at. I've got 2 books that I really like, and I have them on the shelves at my coffee shop, and obviously on Amazon. But I always think about, I'm like, man, if I'm going to a Comic-Con, I should be wearing a Space Pioneer shirt or a Rat Race shirt or something. I should be doing something that is ask me about my book. It's shameless,
Yeah.
I'm always wearing something with Vitellarium on it. I grew my hair out during COVID, and it turned out my wife liked it. So now I don't cut my hair anymore. So if I want to just run out, I usually just throw a hat on because it's a mess to deal with.
Yeah.
I got Vitellarium hats for.
Man, that's sick.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. You're inspiring me. NewWayStories stuff, and Space Pioneer. We got it. Hey, Ben, Darius, get on this, guys. What do I hire you for?
You don't pay me.
No, oh, is that what it was? Is that your excuse? Whatever. No, that's sick. Yeah, man, that's really cool. And it just is also, it's an easy talking point, right? If someone sees it and they're like, oh, what's that? This is the book that I wrote. It's cool. And I think too, people are interested in, whether they read it or not, people are actually interested in, again, the thing that you created. If they said, if they ask you, they go, hey, what did you do this weekend? And you go, I watched 9 hours of Love Island. Now, there are certain people who go, tell me everything. Those people are few and far between. But if you go, oh, I actually spent time writing a book or whatever, people are like, oh, I want to like know about the thing that you created, right? And I always like push back on myself because I'm always like, I don't want to be like the sales person to like promote myself or whatever. But like people care. People want to know about a book or a podcast, like whether this is like a podcast for millions or like we're just doing it as hobbyists. Like people care because you are creating something, right? Like
true.
You're doing something that is more worthwhile than just binging shows. And we're not here to shame all of you people who are binging shows because we also watch TV shows and movies. Guys, have you seen the previews for Spider Noir that's coming out on Amazon next year? Yeah. Shut up, Ben. It's going to be amazing. And I'm going to talk about it constantly.
Well, dude, we have to get into one quick thing. How much time do we have left, Jess?
Like 2 minutes.
Oh, well.
5 minutes.
Okay.
What's the thing you want to talk about? And then we'll collectively decide if it's worth talking about.
I just want a yay or nay. If a yay or nay, new Superman. You look like Superman, Nick. Yay or nay on the new Superman?
It's a great point. You do have a bit of a Superman vibe.
You do?
I don't know about all that, but
That's the right answer.
Are you
He
from
knows.
Kansas?
yeah. I grew up in Kansas. Yeah, that's exactly where I'm from. You can tell by the way I talk that, I spent my childhood in Kansas.
from Rhode Island, but I have not seen the new Superman.
So it comes out in July.
Have you seen the previews for it?
It's okay.
All he's doing is writing.
I saw the preview.
He's got a baby. He's writing a book. He knows. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have all this free time on my hands.
I think it looks cool. Who's the actor that's playing it? Because I thought it was Henry Cavill for a second in the preview, and then it kept like kind of scanning away from his face every time I was trying to be like, who is this?
He's a somewhat unknown guy.
Yeah.
It looks like he'd be good. I don't know.
Yeah.
I really cool. I liked how they did the when he was flying, and it showed like the shaky camera like right up to him as he's basically flying through the air. I thought that was really cool. So there's probably going to be some good CGI, some good film techniques that we can see in that one. But I got to tell you, I am behind. This.
No, you're good, dude. You're good.
What was the last superhero movie you watched?
I miss binging stuff because I'm like, between this and my other business, which pays bills and it's a lot. Plus the kids, plus family and everything else. It's I wish I had more time to like. I have a growing watch list on every streaming.
Yeah,
break into it at all. It's shameful.
No, that's great. It's good. You've got a good full life. That's cool, dude.
Well, this has been awesome, Nick. It was such a pleasure meeting you and hanging out for the last 45 minutes or so. We're all pumped for Vitalium, and we will link it in the description. Go on Amazon. Vitalium. What did I say? You know Vitalium. What? The whole reason, not the whole reason, the whole time we've been talking about this, my character in Space Pioneer goes to a random spot and he finds something called Vitalium, and that's what has been in my head. I'm like, we were so like close in what we were thinking. Vitalium. You can go on Amazon. We will link it. So whether I say it correct or not, we will link it so you go directly to where you can get it. You can get audiobook. You can get digital copy. And then where do we get your comic book from? Is that just personal website or?
Right now, it's only on my website. It's vitalariumseries.com. And you can also get the merch on there. I've got all my different hats and shirts and all that stuff that's on there too.
Sick.
You can also there's a limited edition print of the book that I'm only printing 500 copies of that you can get on the site as well.
That's so sick. And the comic, is that just like a digital comic or do you print like a trade paperback or?
Oh yeah. Prints. I've found a really good local printer and they do a phenomenal job, and that'll have variant covers, special editions, everything.
Sick, man.
You can get it all on the website.
Boom. So that's the answer is Nick Casbarro's website, which we will link in the description. Nick, man, again, thank you so much. It's been awesome.
It has been an absolute pleasure being on with you guys. Thank you again for having me.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Cool. Guys, this has been New Way Stories. You know the deal. Like, subscribe, tell your friends about it if you want or not. I don't care. I do care. Guys, we're averaging like a new subscriber every week, which is kind of fun. So we're just steadily growing and so yeah, keep on keeping on. We'll see you guys all next week.